So today we will talk about a really important thing. This is something I never expected to film, and this will probably angry a lot of people, or make a lot of people out of their mind, or be controversial to a lot of people. But you know, when I get something, it is my obligation to share it. Honestly, as it is said, without being chained by what others will think about it. So, essentially, today I called Abhichara Tantric Master of Dark Tantra. Chayayan is her name. She is essentially a female guru of Abhichara Tantric School. And she was the master of shadow magic and shadow spirituality, and she lives in a shadow underworld space. As you can probably guess, she teaches a lot about shadows in a spiritual sense, what they are. And the first thing she told me as soon as I called her through the yantra you will see on the screen in front of you, the first thing she said essentially is the shadow self is simply accumulation of all negative energy within the soul. What it means. So our souls and our energy bodies are actually extremely huge, and they contain the memories not only from this life but also from the previous lives. It is enormous body of energy. A majority of it we are not aware of. And so, in order to tap into that potential in the Western sphere, in the Western sorcerers circles, they invented the concepts of the higher self, shadow self, spirit animal, etc. What they mean by it is actually those things are externalizations of aspects of the spiritual energy of the soul. So, for example, spirit animal is totality of elemental energy within the soul. Shadow is totality of negative energy within the soul. Higher self is totality of celestial energy within the soul. Necromantic self is totality of the death energy within the soul. And for example, for Indians, for Native Americans, spirit animal was actually external spirit you find, and then it becomes kind of your familiar, and then you work with it. For Western sorcerers, they actually don't work with same spirit animals Native Americans did. What they refer to is totality of elemental energy within the soul. And I came to realize this because if shadow self is, as Chayayan says, simply totality of negative energy within the soul, then that same thing can be said for all other quote-unquote parts of the soul, which are taught in New Age Western sorcery circles. And this is really interesting because how we see them in a Western mindset, how we see those aspects, is we see them like externalized aspects of the soul, but in reality, they are not independent consciousnesses. They are simply our projections upon certain energy which flows through our extended energy body. So Chayayan also taught me how shadow energy operates, how negative energy within aura operates. So when we are born, we inherit the negative energy from the previous lives. and we accumulate the negative energy from this life. Every time we have a negative association with a certain thought or certain deed, when we associate negativity with certain thought or deed, it binds negative energy to that thought or deed, and then our thought or deed we deem negative, we deem destructive, increases our amount of negative energy within us, quote unquote, empowers the shadow self. That negative energy absorbs other types of energy and mixes it and blocks it from expression. So essentially, in order to stop accumulating the energy of negative spheres, of negative worlds, of talas within the aura, we have to essentially stop judging ourselves. That's the most interesting part of this discovery, but I want to essentially talk about something else said, because if shadow self doesn't exist as an external entity, it is simply a projection of negative energy within our souls, then how you approach work with that negative energy is not through summoning some external shadow. It's actually more effective if you do it as a form of energy work. So you need to find where that energy is, where that negative energy is, and then move it so that your energy field can flow. And it also explains why people who work with negative entities, such as asuras, demons from the Western mythology, all kinds of negative spirits across all different pantheons. In modern New Age circles, they usually talk about how work with those entities empowers the shadow self. Now, when we know that shadow self actually don't exist as anything external, that it is simply our projection on negative energy within the aura, what it actually means is that those entities we summon are negative, they are destructive in nature, and when you work with them you increase the amount of destructive energy within your aura. Now, for somebody who is a tantric practitioner, who is tantric ionist, negative energy isn't bad at all. Actually, we believe that through negative energy, through accumulation of it, we can commune with the highest of all truths and obtain ability to manipulate our own reality according to our own will. Those are essentially two principles of tantric ionism. But if we want to talk about Chaya Ion, she is pretty easy to summon. So you simply draw the yantra you see on the screen during the night, and then you repeat Chaya Ion, Chaya Ion, Chaya Ion, Chaya Ion, while looking into the yantra. When you look into the yantra, you don't look into the lines, you simply look into the direction of the yantra, and you don't think about it. You simply look in its direction and you repeat the mantra Chayayan, 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 over and over again. And over time, from the yantra, the energy will start to flow. And as energy builds up, you continue chanting, you continue looking in the direction of the yantra. And over time, the energy of the tantric master, of the tantric guru, of Dravidian Abhicharayanism will grow, and you will essentially become able to communicate with her or to feel her to the point of, how can I say, feel her to the point of no denial, so that you are sure that she is there. What she also advised is that we as tantric practitioners of the Leftian path, there is one thing which is really important for us, which is not essentially discussed. So, because people don't understand what is the shadow self and the fact that it actually doesn't exist, it's simply our projection upon the negative energy within our auras. And because people doesn't understand the nature of the spirits they are working with, they don't want to acknowledge in majority of cases that the spirits they work with are actually negative, they are destructive. I am not trying to say that the destruction is a bad thing. Destruction is a really good thing according to the Tantric Kindness perspective. It is the necessary part of the universe through which we connect with the Supreme Truth. But you cannot deny, for example, that somebody like Gatisama, somebody like Kalanemi, Ashura, somebody like Rakshasi Lankini, somebody like Demon King Belial from the Western lore, you cannot deny that they are indeed destructive and that they can have a really destructive effect on your environment, even baneful effect. But it doesn't mean that that banefulness and destruction cannot be used for positive purposes. For example, Asura Kalanemi can be used to inflict misfortune upon enemies, but he also can be used to remove misfortune from enemies by absorbing the negative energy. So what Chayayam told me is that there is one really important thing when you work with lower realms, especially Talic realms in Hinduism. What needs to be done is you essentially, a lot of people when they go into this, including me when I started, they want to immediately jump on a horse. They want to immediately work with higher gods without preparation. They want immediately the soul travel into different Talic realms. They want immediately to work towards cities. They want to learn how to levitate the glasses, manifest money from nowhere, rise the Kundalini completely, destroy their enemies immediately, etc. And if you wanna work towards those things through many incarnations and many years, one fundamental thing is you need to learn how to go into Talic realms through yantras. But in this video, we will not talk about how to go into Talas. Instead, we will talk about how to prepare for it. The only way to effectively prepare for it is to absorb an enormous amount of negative energy in your aura, and also to learn how to move that negative energy through the aura so you don't go insane. It is done essentially by calling spirits and telling them to give you enormous amounts of negative energy. This is a really hard process, this is a really difficult process, but it is a necessary process. And the last thing I want to, mention is that those externalizations of energies within the aura, like the higher self, which is simply the Western externalization of all celestial energy within the soul, all shadow self, which is simply Western externalization of all of the negative energy within the soul. Those externalizations are simply the sums of energy within the aura. In my personal opinion, which by nature has to be limited by my ego, I think that the only part of the self you should try to contact for spiritual decisions is your own Atman. It is the core of your soul, your divine essence. That should be contacted, not the sums of spiritual energy within the aura, extended or smaller. So, my advice, if you are a Westerner and you try to practice Dravidian Lionism, please don't stop working with things such as shadow self or higher self, or I don't know, spirit animal in Western context, because it's simply externalization of certain energy within your aura and within your soul. You should try to access that energy directly through energy work. That's my message for today. And also, if we want to work with shadow self or shadow negative energy within us, we should try to do it through energy work and moving the energy through our aura. And that's difficult. I will in the future show some techniques how to do it, and that's everything I have to say. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.